Hey, do you know that you can have really good intentions and still impede somebody's growth? Let's talk about it, because I'll bet that there have been other people in your life who have done things that they thought were for your good, and you yourself thought, not exactly what I would have wanted. So let's talk about how we mix that up. All right? So whether we deliberately call it one or not, this is a reciprocation. I am giving you information, and what I am asking from you, if this resonates with you in any way, is to subscribe, like, comment, share. Okay? Deal? Good. Let's talk about life's journeys, because we all come here on our own journey. We don't come here for anybody else's purposes but our own. Now, our purpose will, of course, include other people, because that's how it goes. We are here to interact with others. You'll hear me say this often. Your first training ground is your family. The family you were born into, the family you were raised with. It doesn't necessarily have to be bloodline, but whomever you spent your formative years with, or whichever groups of people were your training ground. It was the place that you learned a whole lot of what you still carry today, if you have not gone back in order to say, okay, I picked this up from there and this is really not helpful and I should probably let that go. Some of that is important. For the most part, stay forwardly focused, but it's really good to know the roots of stuff if it's coming up repeatedly, so that you're able to check that belief system, because anything that becomes habit for you or becomes a pattern, then it's part of your belief system. So let's go back to people and doing things for people when we think we're helping them, but we could actually be hurting them. We hear words like enable. How do you know when you're enabling somebody or helping somebody? One, to understand that everybody's on their own path, okay? We have our paths of purpose. We all came here to work on stuff. If you understand temperaments, then it's very, very easy to start to see the things that you need to work on, because right away you see strengths and weaknesses, none of which I like to call strengths or weaknesses or good or bad, because it just is. When you see your temperament and the things that distinguish you from others, then you know it's not just for you, but that everybody has those same kinds of qualities, okay? So our purpose, we can just look at temperament, which I teach. So there's a video. You can go and learn more. When we understand temperament and we understand the spectrum, then it becomes easier to see what other people need to work on too. It also becomes easier to see where you might be enabling people, when what you really need to be doing is supporting them in their own evolutions. Okay, let me give an example. So you're a parent and you have a child. You recognize some tendencies with that child that you might consider a weakness. That child came for their own purpose. Part of their purpose is to work through what you are considering a weakness or a gap in them, or even a deficiency. Well, you can help guide them into filling that deficit, but it is actually the work of the child to identify it as a problem, and then to choose to work on it. Now, here's the difference. If you are learning this and your child is still minor, then you can help tremendously with helping to fill those deficits for them. If you missed it and they are on to adulthood, then there's a way for you to do that, but just make sure you're not enabling. Too many people enable their children while they are on their own path of purpose. And it doesn't matter what you come up with, whether it is that they are what you consider influenceable, and not a leader, just following everybody else's leadings or joining crowds or whatever it is. Or if they're off on a path where they are on drugs and doing things that are less than what you want for them, it is still their path. So what do? Well, you can enable or you can support. Well, there are other options, but these are the only two I'm going to focus on, okay? Because the other options are destructive and unproductive on all ways. Enabling is the same, but people enable not for the person, they enable for themselves. Any parent who keeps saving a child from the ripple effects, which can be consequences and repercussions because of some choices that they're making, and it's repeated, then that parent is not saving that child. That parent is saving themselves. That parent is saving themselves from the fears of what could happen to them with the ripple effects. I know you think it's love. I'm telling you it's fear. Because if it were love, then you would trust in source and your own training. And if you're not trusting in those, then you're trying to save. And if you're not trusting in those, then your focus should not be on that child. Your focus should be on yourself. Because if that child is now adult age, you haven't missed anything because you didn't know before now. Everything is energy, and timing is always perfect. Okay? We learn our lessons when we learn them. It is still their path. So, enabling or supporting? In supporting, then you don't do things to save them for yourself. So your questioning has to stop being toward the child and have to start being at yourself. Why are you continuing to do this? And remove love from the equation. Because it really boils down to your comfort. Because loving is often about leaving people alone and allowing them to find their own way. It's their path. Nobody is expert on anybody other than the person themselves. And the only way you become expert on yourself is to go through your own stuff and on your own figure out what you need and what is best for you and why you're doing the things you're doing instead of continuing to be saved. I know that was a tough one. And one that is hard to swallow. I have people who are now telling me things like, I watched something of yours or heard something of yours, and I could not when I first heard it. But then I came back to it. That could be you, may not be. It's okay either way. So this one was heavy. It's a heavy one, so I won't belabor it. Here's what I will say. There are primary experiences and there are secondary experiences. For everybody that you come in contact with, whether it's through family or other people you chose, there are primary experiences and secondary. You have to always determine if this is your primary, your particular life's journey, and you are the star of this show, or if you are supporting cast. You will be affected by those you care about, or even in work kind of situations where you're working with somebody. You'll be affected by situations, but you have to determine if you're the primary or the secondary in the cast, okay? And if you are the secondary, then your job is to support. Because energetically, hear me, energetically, you cannot help the person that you love or that you are trying to support if you are vibrating at the same frequency. If they have a problem and you make it your problem, then you add momentum to their problem. I told you I like to slow down, so I'm just going to pause a moment. If you become part of their problem, then you add momentum to their problem. Yes, it is indeed a horse and chariot. Let it pass. It's way cool. So there are always solutions and ways out, but you have to play your role. If you're not the primary, you're contributing to the problem. If you don't want to contribute to the problem, then you have to figure out how to be in support of, okay? In support of means you have to go at a higher vibration. You can't take that on as yours. You have to support them in the space and holding them in the vibration and the ideals that you have for them in that better place. So if it's a child that's on drugs, don't see them as on drugs. See them in a successful place and happier and having worked through whatever it is that's causing them to need the drugs. Okay? So see them as the finished product or the more advanced product, not the problem. You hold them there, you treat them as if they're there, and don't enable them in the spaces that they're in, and make sure that the love remains, but the love is holding them in the space that they are going, not the space they're in. All right, that's all I got for you this time. So, it's your life. Choose it just as it is. Own it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Change it. As long as you can breathe and learn, it can get better. Bye for now.